Welcome and thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Jim Price, President of the ICCFA Educational Foundation. This is going to continue to be a really moving next 20 minutes. I know that many of you have reservations and you're going to be needing to leave, but I encourage you to do everything you can to spend the next 20 minutes here. A special thank you to the 10 sponsors of tonight's reception that will be noted in the video in just a few minutes. This morning, the general session, we recognized 3 organizations for their recent commitments: TriGuard, Parkland Corporation, and Midwest Memorial Group, the Memorial Classic Golf Tournament, and the checks are behind us here, and their commitment to the Education Foundation. So thank you all. And now I'm going to move on to the Lasting Impact Award. But before I do that, all the Vietnam veterans that are in the room, if you could remain here for just no more than 5 minutes at the end of the reception, we'd like to get a group photograph with all the members from ICCFA and all Vietnam veterans. We appreciate you doing that. You know, on this trophy here, the inscription is this: it is in recognition of the significant educational remembrance and memorialization contributions to our country and our profession. You will see a very powerful, moving video in just a few minutes. It'll be about the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., where 5.6 million people did last year and did the year before and continue as, and I think it gets more visitors today than it did even 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. It's amazing. I also want to point out that our honoree wrote this book to heal a nation, and all that he went through to make that happen, and it's amazing. When you see the video, what you're going to see is certain things that will tell the whole story, but there's a few things that I'm going to share with you that you won't see on there. And that is that the exact number of names on that wall today is 58,307. However, at least 3 additional walls could be built and filled with 58,000 names. 3 more walls could be 58,000 names. Think about this. Names of who returned home and have died or will die in the future since that war ended, from their services, wounded, or major disorders. In my view, there hasn't been one single individual that has had greater positive impact over the past 35 years than helping to make acceptable for individuals to openly grieve in their honor tonight. Jan persevered. He was persistent. He was adamant that his dream would embody honor, grief, loss, and remembrance and closure, and it does. Dr. Alan Wolfelt says it well. Profound loss requires profound mourning. I honor Jan Scruggs, who understands that our eventual healing depends on these polished walls of stone forever etched within our pain.
I know your life on earth is troubled. Only you could know the pain. You weren't afraid to face the devil. You were no stranger to me. So go as high on that mountain, 'cause on your word wish I could see the angel faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. Glory's high on that mountain, 'cause on your world on earth is done. Go to heaven, the shadow, not for the Father and the Son. Go to heaven, the shadow, not for the Father and the
The ICCFA Educational Foundation presents the 2017 Lasting Impact Award, honoring Jan C. Scruggs, founder of the Vietnam Memorial. Reception sponsors:
What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. The devil's on the loose. Better run through the jungle. Better run through the jungle. Better run through the jungle. But don't look back. That's the best. When I lay me down to die, going up to the spirit in the sky, going up to the spirit in the sky. It's where last night I only let him slip, and so I wish that I could stay before the thing could answer me. Well, someone came and took the lamp away. I looked around, a lousy candles all out. Well, you don't know. No satisfaction. No satisfaction. No satisfaction. No satisfaction.
Washington, D.C.'s Vietnam Veterans Memorial has become one of the most heavily visited monuments in our nation's capital. But it might not be here at all if it were not for the efforts of this man, Army veteran Jan Scruggs.
When I got out of high school, I went into the Army, volunteered for the draft for 2 years in the Vietnam War. It was pretty obvious that being a Vietnam veteran was not something to advertise sort of on your resume of life. So that sort of resonated with me, that this is the way we're viewed. I decided to build a national Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and I didn't really know what I was doing. But a lot of great people got involved.
It was his concept, and started everything with his own seed money. Just put the money in, and he began, and this was 30 years ago, so things were done differently. He began pounding the halls of Congress because it's on the national mall. We had to get approval, congressional support.
The initial design for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was the Maya Lin design. She had the most brilliant design because we said in the competition that we wanted this to be reflective and contemplative and horizontal, and she met all that. We got it built in record time. We started in 1979 and it was completed in 1982. How are you going to beat that? Our sort of credo was, look, we want to separate the war from the warrior. People can debate the wisdom of our foreign policy decisions, but they can't really debate whether their neighbor's kid who volunteered for 4 years in the Marine Corps did the right thing for his country. He did the right thing for his country, so let's honor the people who served.
People leave the most incredible mementos, tokens at the wall. People left them for a reason. It meant something to them.
I remember just after we'd put the panels up and somebody snuck over the fence and placed a pair of cowboy boots like about halfway down the east panel. It was like a spooky sort of thing to see. But within a week, there were hundreds and hundreds of items that had been left there. Some people didn't like it. They thought it was, black's the color of shame. All the other monuments are white. And so there was this big argument. So we said, okay, we will have a traditional element with this unconventional memorial, which was the three servicemen statue, 1984. Once that was built, the women who served in Vietnam were very upset and said, well, we can't believe this. You don't have a Vietnam women's statue. And they pushed and got through Congress legislation to authorize that. That was built in 1993. And there's an Agent Orange in memory plaque. It's at the site. So these are the elements. The site is filled. So now the education centers can start appealing to these different groups.
Visitors will enter a place of civic reflection.
The basic mission will be to honor America's legacy of service from 1775, actually, which is when the U.S. Army sort of formed itself to fight the British, all the way through to Iraq and Afghanistan. The primary focus of the exhibits will be the wall of faces and how we remember the fallen.
And give a face to the faceless.
Once every hour, for 5 minutes, we're going to show the photographs of the fallen. So that, with working with the other exhibits, this will become a place of reunion, and this is a place that all the veterans will go to. Well, I like hanging around there when I get the chance. Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. But the people who are like in one battle or something, I've met a lot of relatives and friends and neighbors who went there to do an etching. That's always the great sort of way to meet someone. When they're rubbing name, you just ask, whose name are you rubbing, and then they sort of tell you the story. And I've met some of the great soldiers from the Vietnam War, some of the great soldiers in today's military as well. Once a year we put new names on it, and also in the country of Vietnam we have U.S. military personnel who actually try to find the remains of our soldiers. For most veterans, it is a very cathartic experience. I'm not sure it closes their pain, ends their struggles, but cathartic experiences are important important parts of our lives. So the emotion associated with seeing the names, getting some closure by honoring somebody, maybe even leaving an item there, it's a very important and amazing part of the experience.
If tomorrow all things were gone and work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA, there is pride in every American heart. Now it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Jan Scruggs.
How about that singer? Talk about a hard act to follow. Well, please be seated. It's rare that I actually get a standing ovation after I give the words. I appreciate it before. But it's an honor to be here with you and to be honored. And of course, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is a place of healing, you know, for the country, for the military veterans as well. It's really become a very sacred space in the Washington area and has a certain spiritual qualities. And theologians and psychiatrists and others have written about it extensively. A professor of American popular culture traced these highway headstones that you see as you drive down the road and the Oklahoma City bombing. So public mourning has sort of changed as a result of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And that's it's a healthy thing. And so I just want you all to know that in my view, everybody in the nation really appreciates the work that you do. I mean, you're in a very difficult business. You're dealing with some very, the deepest of emotions when people lose a friend or a relative or a young person, which is always the worst. So, so I want to thank you for the work you do. I think it's good, and I think you know the idea of a funeral service and a proper burial. This is the beginning of a healing process, and maybe you never heal when you lose someone you really love, but it's important. So always remember, you're doing more than earning a living. You know, you're really making a difference in people's lives when they're having kind of their worst day. My final effort right now is the completion of a national memorial in Washington, D.C., honoring the veterans of the war on terror, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the ongoing wars as well. So the legislation is moving through Congress, and we have some friends in the administration and the Congress, and we'll get this done, and we'll raise the money and get it built. It'll take about 6 years, 5 or 6 years, and then I think I'm done with building national memorials in Washington, D.C. But you know, we have to separate the war from the warrior, and that's what we did with the idea of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and that's what we're going to do with this global war on terror as well. So, but what we're doing is, we're not memorializing the war, but what we're doing is really memorializing the courage of the military veterans of that war. So I want to give you my favorite quote on the whole idea of courage. This was written by a fellow named Charles Moran Wilson. Dr. Wilson was a medical doctor in the British Army during World War I. And this is what he wrote. He wrote, "Courage is a moral quality. It is not a chance gift of nature like an aptitude for games. It is a cold, hard choice between two alternatives. It is the fixed resolve not to quit, which must be made not just once, but many times by the power of the will." So what he wrote was, courage is all about willpower. And the important thing that I've found in my life, and I will share with you, is that courage does not mean you're not afraid. Courage gives you the strength to look your fear in the face and to do the things you have to do. And I hope you will remember that and keep facing and the things that are in your way, and put that helmet on and keep charging. And thank you all very much.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all your supporters. We appreciate it very much. Have a great evening and a great convention. Thank you.